handled the situations as good as I could, and yeah, Novak is so tough to play against because you always feel the pressure. It's not easy.
Those were not the words of a player making excuses after a defeat. They came from Jannik Sinner immediately after one of the biggest victories of his Wimbledon campaign. Most players would have spent the press conference talking about their own performance, their winners, or their confidence. Instead, Sinner chose to explain something much more important. He revealed that the biggest challenge of facing Novak Djokovic isn't simply his shots or his athletic ability. It's the constant pressure that follows every single point. That one sentence immediately caught the attention of tennis fans around the world because it perfectly describes what so many great players have experienced against Djokovic for more than a decade. Pressure in tennis is different from pressure in almost any other sport. A football player can rely on teammates. A basketball star can recover after a missed shot. Tennis offers no such luxury. Every mistake belongs to you alone. Every missed forehand, every weak serve, every failed volley immediately changes the momentum. Against Novak Djokovic, those moments become even heavier because opponents know they are facing one of the greatest competitors in the history of the sport. That psychological weight often begins long before the first serve is even struck. By the time players walk onto center court, they already understand that they must perform at an extraordinary level just to stay competitive. Sinner admitted exactly that after his victory. He explained that he knew mentally he had to raise his level before stepping onto the court. Those weren't empty words. During the days leading up to the match, he and his coaching team focused on preparing both his body and his mind. They understood that ordinary tennis would never be enough. Against Djokovic, average performances rarely produce victories. Every service game demands complete concentration, every return requires commitment, and every rally tests a player's patience. Sinner wasn't preparing to play just another opponent. He was preparing to face a player who has built his career by punishing even the smallest mistakes. That reputation didn't appear overnight. Novak Djokovic has spent nearly 2 decades creating an image that few athletes in any sport have ever achieved. Fans have watched him survive impossible situations, save championship points, recover from injuries, and defeat opponents who believed they were only moments away from victory. Every comeback has added another layer to his legend. Every Grand Slam trophy has strengthened the belief that no lead is truly safe against him. When players step onto the court, they aren't only facing Djokovic's tennis, they're also facing everything his career represents. That history creates pressure before the first point has even been played. This is why Sinner's comments carried so much meaning. He didn't criticize Djokovic. He didn't claim the Serbian legend had become slower or weaker. Instead, he admitted that facing Novak requires something different from every other opponent. According to Sinner, you must bring your absolute best tennis from the very beginning, because if your level drops for even a few games, Djokovic has the ability to completely change the match. That level of consistency is incredibly difficult to maintain, especially on the biggest stages where emotions run high and every point feels enormous. One of the biggest reasons Djokovic creates this pressure is his remarkable ability to stay mentally calm during critical moments. Throughout his career, he has repeatedly shown that he can remain composed while others become frustrated. Break points, tie breaks, fifth sets, and championship points rarely seem to change his focus. While many players allow emotions to influence their decisions, Djokovic often becomes even more disciplined under pressure. His opponents recognize this quality, and it forces them to take greater risks in an attempt to stay ahead. Those risks often lead to mistakes, exactly the outcome Djokovic hopes for. Sinner experienced that challenge firsthand. Even after building momentum during the match, he knew he couldn't relax for a single moment. Djokovic has built a reputation for turning matches around with one incredible return game or one perfectly timed break of serve. Players understand that a comfortable lead can disappear within minutes. That's why Sinner emphasized that he had to keep his concentration at the highest possible level. His victory wasn't only about hitting great shots, it was about refusing to allow the pressure to control his decisions. Another fascinating part of Sinner's interview was his honesty. Rather than pretending the victory came easily, he openly admitted how much work had gone into preparing for Djokovic. He praised his coaching team for helping him find the right rhythm physically and mentally before the semifinal. Those comments reveal something that casual fans often overlook. Elite tennis isn't only about talent. Behind every successful performance are countless hours of preparation, strategy, recovery, video analysis, and mental training. The match itself is only the final stage of a much longer process. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of Sinner's performance was his willingness to attack without becoming reckless. Against Djokovic, players often face a difficult decision: play too safely, and Djokovic gradually takes control of the rallies. Play too aggressively, and unforced errors begin to pile up. Finding the perfect balance is one of the hardest challenges in modern tennis. Sinner managed that balance exceptionally well. He served confidently, attacked at the right moments, and stayed patient when longer rallies developed. That combination allowed him to maintain control while avoiding unnecessary risks. Even after defeating Djokovic, Sinner continued speaking with enormous respect. Instead of celebrating by declaring a new era, he reminded everyone how difficult it remains to play against the Serbian champion. That humility explains why so many people respect Sinner both on and off the court. He understands that one victory doesn't erase everything Djokovic has accomplished. Tennis history is filled with players who won one big match only to struggle in future meetings. Sinner knows every match against Novak starts from zero regardless of previous results. The mental side of tennis has become increasingly important in recent years, and Sinner's comments perfectly highlight why. Physical fitness across the ATP Tour has reached extraordinary levels. Nearly every top player can hit powerful serves and explosive ground strokes. What separates the greatest champions is often their ability to think clearly, while thousands of spectators are watching, and millions more are following around the world. Djokovic has mastered that skill throughout his career. Sinner recognized that reality and prepared himself accordingly before stepping onto center court. There is another reason Djokovic creates such pressure. His consistency forces opponents to believe they must play nearly perfect tennis. Against many players, a few mistakes won't decide the outcome. Against Djokovic, every missed opportunity feels far more expensive. Players become aware that breakpoint chances may not come again. They know that wasted advantages can completely change the direction of a match. That awareness increases tension with every passing game. It isn't fear, it's the understanding that perfection is often required. What makes Sinner's interview especially interesting is that he focused on lessons rather than celebration. Instead of simply discussing the scoreline, he explained the mindset required to compete against one of the greatest players ever. Those insights offer fans a rare look inside the thoughts of an elite athlete. We often see the winners, the celebrations, and the trophies, but interviews like this reveal what players are actually thinking while preparing for the biggest matches of their careers. Looking ahead, Sinner knows that every future meeting with Djokovic will present a new challenge. Tennis constantly changes. Surfaces change, conditions change, confidence changes, and momentum changes. One victory never guarantees another. That's why Sinner refused to become overconfident after Wimbledon. He understands that champions like Djokovic continue adapting, learning, and finding new ways to compete. Every match writes a different story, regardless of what happened before. In the end, Sinner's biggest revelation wasn't about tactics or technique. It was about pressure. According to him, that invisible pressure is what makes Novak Djokovic different from almost every other opponent in professional tennis. You cannot switch off mentally, you cannot expect easy moments, you cannot rely on average tennis. Every point demands complete focus from beginning to end. That is the standard Djokovic has established over an extraordinary career, and that is why even today's top stars continue speaking about him with such respect. So when Jannik Sinner says, "Novak is so tough to play against because you always feel the pressure. It's not easy," he isn't describing just one match at Wimbledon. He's describing the challenge that has defined an entire generation of tennis. Beating Djokovic requires more than talent. It requires discipline, belief, resilience, and the ability to perform under relentless pressure. That may be the greatest compliment any opponent can give, and perhaps the clearest explanation of why Novak Djokovic remains one of the most formidable competitors the sport has ever seen.